Dr. John Madden in the Colonia R. Flores Magon, and this is Escobedo, Mariano Escobedo Avenida, which leads right down to the wharf, the seawall down there. And this street has an indigenous name that I just absolutely cannot pronounce. Jose, help me. Icancato. My friend Jose Yaniguez back in the States, who grew up in this building, he knows how to pronounce that. I thought that all these indigenous names were new names. I thought that that was a recent movement to honor the indigenous, because certainly the country is waking up to how much it needs the indigenous people. But he says that when he grew up here 30 years ago, that was the name of the street then. So that's good. There was some consciousness. I like to say that Mexico is perhaps the most Christian country in the world that will never ever brand itself a Christian country, because it honors the spirituality of the indigenous people. Now, it didn't always, but people are waking up in this country. And some people in the US are waking up, but half the country is not. Half the country is narcotized by a big fat blowhard with a huge ego. So I'm not going there. Jose, do you remember this street? So Jose likes it when I take videos from his neighborhood. He says I'm walking in his footsteps. I did a 10-minute video of the huge Mercado Hidalgo downtown. Classic old Mexican market. Big city block with every kind of stall next to each other. And Jose commented on that video by saying, at minute 6, just before you went out the door and came back in, your camera rested on my cousin, who I haven't seen for 20 years. How's that? So, making videos can be a lonely process. I pretend that somebody is listening, and I get more and more comments now, and every comment is like gold, because wow, somebody watched it. And people say some really interesting things. Many people have said some variation of, thank you for honoring my people. I'm so glad that there are gringos like you out there who are noticing how wonderful the Mexican people are. We're coming up to the, now a guy corrected me this morning. I was trying to find my way back here, and I said the Hospital Hispanico, and he says no, it's the Hospital Español. And I still don't know if that means that they don't treat gringos there. They won't treat indigenous people. I think it probably means that somehow it goes back to the Spanish. The Spanish legacy, imperial legacy in Mexico is pretty sorry. I guess they all are. The French imperial legacy in Mexico is pretty terrible. The Germans even got in on it. And I've been reading up on the Mexican-American War, or in Mexico they like to call it the North American Intervention. And that's as despicable as any of them. I guess the Spanish were worse when they infected the indigenous people with smallpox and murdered all their leaders. I guess that's worse. The legend says, the Eurocentric myth says that it was easy for Europeans to take over Mexico because they were smarter and more sophisticated and had better guns. Actually, there's a National Public Radio podcast about the Great Conquest that says when the Mexicans arrived at the great city, the capital of the Aztec dynasty, in the location of what is now Mexico City, that city was another name I can't pronounce, was by far the biggest city in the world and the most sophisticated. It was on islands. and the garbage got removed from every island every day. And big parking lot, and maybe there's garages back there where they work on cars. The real secret was stealth, because the indigenous didn't know whether they should trust them, but they tried trusting them, and then they whipped out their guns and started shooting, and they brought smallpox. Yeah, wasn't because they were smarter, but us Europeans like to think that, because then we don't feel so bad about raping and looting, you know, in the US or in Mexico. Now, Kristi Noem, I'm going back to politics, who for a while looked like a leading candidate for Trump's vice president. In addition to shooting puppies, she is not welcome on any native land in the state where she's governor because of all the ways she has insulted them. They officially say, you are not welcome on our property. So that's red meat to Trump. Says, wow, if the natives don't like you, you're my kind of girl. It's hot. This guy's coming this way. Mostly no stoplights in Mexico. It is a more communal society. You work it out amongst yourselves who goes when. And he might not watch me. He's looking to make his jump here with this nice red car. So you go, well, come on, take it. Jeez, come on. When am I going to get a chance? Taxi. Give me cover, taxi. Give me cover. Let's go. Good boy. Thank you. And this side street, Jose, you already know it, don't you? Is Gomez Farias. Now there is a town of Gomez Farias back in Tamaulipas state. I visited it for a few days. There is an official, what do they call it? There's a mountain observatory up there. And I never made it to the mountain observatory because you had to take four-wheel drive vehicles up to the top of the mountain. And I, at that point, had two dogs, one of whom was nursing a broken hip. So it just absolutely wasn't going to work. But Gomez Farias was very enchanting. And I got to look up the origin of that name. So many of the names are, I'm breathless because I'm walking fast and talking. So many of the names come from war heroes or presidents or dates. I'm moving right by 60 de Diciembre, and I don't even know what happened on 16th of December, but I bet Jose knows. Today I've been looking up things like, when are all the holidays in Mexico, and was Cinco de Mayo actually a holiday? And it was. It's an official national holiday, but they just don't make much of it. It came and went. And back in the US, you'd know, because expats, Latinos, Mexicans in the US really celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And there's another great podcast about that, the history of that, from National Public Radio. Throughline podcast did both of those. They go deep into the history of issues we're facing now. Shut up. We're getting into the historic downtown. You can see how old that building is. Nice little tienda. Going to the Chedraui store because I need an air mattress to sleep on, and because it's plastic, it will survive even if my landlord once again floods the whole apartment. Every time he's tried to hook the water up, he floods my apartment. Last night the only place I could sleep was on the balcony. And if I get the single, it will limit my options for romance, but it'll be cheaper, and it'll fit on the balcony if the living room is flooded. And if somebody wants to sleep over, it'll be like upper or lower bunk. Do you want to be on top of me? An old man can dream. Look how old. Look how old. That's abandoned. A lot of old abandoned buildings in Mexico. But unlike South Texas, where the poverty was way worse in South Texas, here families will take care of you. There are very few genuinely homeless people. South Texas, Rio Grande Valley, somebody squatting in every abandoned building, no matter how terrible. The only place I've seen that in Mexico was a brand new concrete structure that had never been finished, never made nice, never domesticated. And there was a young couple there that seemed fine. They had friends who would come over and visit, and they'd hang their laundry on the line. I think I'm getting close, and I have to shut up. Jose, did we see any of your relatives? You used to ride your bike down the street, right? Okay, bye.